Good afternoon. I'm Father Alexander. Welcome to St. Peter's in Hove. I've been away on holiday. That's why you haven't seen me for a bit. And before that, of course, it was Easter. But I want to talk about Jeremiah chapter 12, verses 7 to 13. Now, in these verses, God is lamenting the devastation that has been wreaked on his land, Israel, his chosen portion, his heritage, Israel. Uh, Reading this, I'm immediately struck by that famous phrase of Shakespeare's in Sonnet 73, where he talks of bare, ruined choirs where once the sweet birds sang. What Shakespeare is actually talking about in this sonnet is the fact he's getting old, and that while he's a bit like a tree that's lost its leaves, once upon a time the tree was full of leaves and full of birds which were sweetly singing, but now the birds have departed. Again, we have it in Keats, don't we? The sedge has withered from the lake and no birds sing. When he talks about the boughs of the tree being bare, ruined choirs, he's calling to mind the ruined monasteries, we think. Many people think. We Catholics particularly think. We're very much of the opinion, are we not, that Shakespeare, being a man of such intense sensibility, was appalled by the damage done by the Reformation. And in his heart, at least, he was a huge sympathizer with the Catholic Church. He stuck up with the underdog, and he lamented the passing of the old ways. Bare, ruined choirs, where once the sweet birds sang, contains in it, it's an image about a tree, of course, but it contains in it the nugget of a man who's very sorry about the Reformation and the damage it's done to the fabric of England. Now, there's something very similar, I feel, in this passage from Jeremiah. Here we have Jeremiah being almost poetic, which he isn't very often. Usually he's just sort of, usually he goes on, he's off on one, isn't he? But here he's poetic. God is speaking. I have abandoned my house, the temple, left my heritage. I have delivered what I dearly loved into the clutches of its enemies. To me, my heritage has behaved like a lion in the forest. It roared at me ferociously, so now I hate it. I see my heritage as a brightly coloured bird of prey, attacked by birds of prey on every side. Go, assemble all the wild animals, make them come and dine. Many shepherds have laid my vineyard waste, have trampled over my plot of land, the plot of land which was my joy, reducing my favourite estate to a deserted wilderness. They have made it waste, wasted, it mourns before me. The whole country has been devastated and no one takes it to heart. The devastators have arrived on all the bare heights of the desert, for the Lord wields a devouring sword. From one end of the country to the other, there is no peace for any living thing. Wheat they have sown, thorns they reap. They have worn themselves out to no profit. They are disappointed in their harvests because of the Lord's burning anger. So the land has been devastated. The land has been rendered a desert. God's heritage has been ruined. God is in mourning for the land. Once the land was like the Garden of Eden. It was fertile, it was productive, it was happy, and of course, the Garden of Eden, if you remember, had a wall around it. It was protected from outsiders. But now the outsiders have taken over, the wild animals rule. And we have this rather awful image here. I see my heritage as a brightly coloured bird of prey, attacked by birds of prey on every side. This beautiful, let's say, eagle has now been, its pride has been completely ruined by, it's been ganged up on by all the other birds of prey and it's being torn apart limb from limb. Many shepherds have laid my vineyard waste, have trampled over my plot of land. Now, clearly, Jesus read this as a boy in the synagogue at Nazareth, and clearly, Jesus had this passage in his mind when he talks about the vineyard of Israel, which is entrusted to the children of Israel, and the children of Israel abuse the vineyard and lay it waste. Well, where does this leave us? And of course, this vineyard imagery does come again and again. It also happens in Isaiah, doesn't it? Where does this leave us? What is the vineyard that has been entrusted to us? Well, We've all got a vineyard, although we may not realize it. The vineyard, young and old, that's been entrusted to us is ourselves. We are meant to become, in the sight of the Lord, cultivated people. We don't often use this phrase. Oh, he's very cultivated, isn't he? Oh, she's terribly cultivated. Cultivated in the sense of somebody who's developed their full potential, somebody who has taken their natural gifts and developed them for the use of humanity and the use of society. We are meant to cultivate our gifts for the good of the church. The other thing is with cultivation, as you know, a lot of cultivation is about weeding out that which is bad. We are supposed to live good moral lives. We're meant to turn away from that which is bad and embrace that which is good. When you weed your garden, you have to rip out the weeds, the noxious plants, so the good plants can grow. The good plants can have space to grow. Every time we do something bad, every time we think about something bad or indulge our bad side, we are impeding the growth of the good. So that is rather important. The other thing is that more importantly, the vineyard is us. To each of us, we've been given responsibility for our own lives. Therefore, we have a moral duty to endeavour. I'm sounding like a Quaker now, aren't I? To endeavour. If you remember, Morse was a Quaker and his name was Endeavour. We are meant to endeavour to improve ourselves with the grace of God, of course. And indeed, those Quakers of old were the most upright and wonderful human beings, although it has to be said, a little bit dull. They didn't believe in music and dancing and things like that. They were very earnest. They did believe in things like prison reform. And of course, they were very much against alcohol. They believed in chocolate instead. Anyway, you know what I mean. We're Catholics, so we do believe in having a good time. Having a good time is part of the endeavour of making society and ourselves joyful. So we shouldn't worry about that too much. The other thing is this: bare ruined choirs where once the sweet bird sang. We're meant to cultivate the church, protect the church, build up the church. What's this mean? Two things. One, and this is just fairly obvious, if you don't know where to begin, start here. We're meant to look after the building of the church. We're meant to beautify the building of the church. So this means something really simple. If you don't know what to do, get a hoover and start hoovering that carpet. Get some Brasso and start rubbing those candlesticks. That's what it means. Say to the parish priest, look, somebody needs to clean out the holy water stoops. They're all gungy. May I help? To glorify the house of God, the physical house of God, is one way of building up the church, one way of looking after the vineyard of the Lord. And incidentally, whenever you go into a church, and I do this all the time, you can tell if the church has an unloved look, which reflects badly on the people, or if the church looks like a place that is loved, a place full of love, a place full of people who are serving the Lord. So your service of the Lord may be doing the hoovering, and people say, this has been well hoovered. Somebody must care, and that's good. The second thing is, of course, build up the church, the body of Christ, the people, the community that worships in your local parish. This is very important. Back in the day, and I mean about 30, 40 years ago, there was a bit of a thing about how lay people should go to the parish church and support their local church and not go to a church that was run by a religious order, which wasn't a parish church. Those non-parish churches have largely disappeared in our country, sadly. Now we just have bare ruined choirs where once the sweet bird sang. So let us look after our churches. Let us look after our local community. Now, the thing about this is um, Israel turned into a wasteland, not by accident, but because the people who lived there, they did not care about the Lord. They did not care about the Torah. They did not care about the law of the Lord and pleasing him. Each turned to his own selfish way. And because they became selfish, worshipping foreign gods and so on and so forth, their endeavours, being selfish endeavours, failed. What they have sown, wheat they have sown, thorns they reap. Does sound a little bit like communism, doesn't it? And they have worn themselves out to no profit. Stop making a human effort. Rather, let yourself be transformed by the grace of God. All the best. Bye for now.